Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Old School Rally, which is not a PlayStation 1 rally game. It's actually a modern day rally game that just came out this week, I believe, which is fun. You can find it on Steam. It's very cheap. I bought it for £6, 20% off, so it's probably like £8. And it's a whole lot of fun. Much like Ballistic NG for Wipeout or Tokyo Extreme Racer for Need for Speed Underground, this game is very much a callback to a golden age of racing game which is now past. And I should try and get this out of the way as soon as possible. I did not grow up playing these games, and I am not very good at them. The Colin McRae rally games were more my dad's games, except he wasn't very good at them either. But I definitely have a nostalgia for them all the same, and playing this, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I wish I had played these more as a kid, because if I got into them, I would probably have really enjoyed them. But I guess, I was a kid, so I was probably more into the whole playing racing games where I can just accelerate into the corners and, bounce off the boundaries and stuff. Use the rails to turn, that sort of thing. Now that I'm an old man, however, at the age of 30, I can appreciate the more technical side of driving in video games. And this game isn't just harkening back to the old aesthetics of the old PlayStation 1 rally racing games for like a quick buck. It is a decent racing game in its own right. I mean, again, I never played those games all that much back in the day, but this game does have thousands of very positive Steam recommendations, so, let other people speak for me if I can't quite bring my own pedigree to bear. This game is fun, and don't go in expecting like realistic physics or anything like that, because it's not just trying to recreate the aesthetics of those old rally racing games, but also the feel. And there are many recognizable but legally distinct cars in this game, and there are many locations, like you can see. This is the Expert Championship, I should say, and it starts us off in Japan, but there are plenty of other tracks that you will see throughout the course of this video. And I'm very fond. I'm exceptionally fond. And I kind of wanted to use this game to springboard off into a larger topic of how, like those other games I mentioned earlier, we are starting to see like these harkening back to the old days of gaming sorts of indie releases, right? Like, I'm also thinking of the upcoming Kiro quests to harken back to the old Mario 64 platformer days. And don't get me wrong, I know that indie titles, like, exploring the older eras of gaming is nothing new. That's why we have Super Meat Boy, although that's a bit different because it is its own style of platformer, but aesthetically speaking it was trying to call back to an era of gaming, right? But I feel like more and more in recent days we've been exploring more niche genres of gaming. Like, I would say the Colin McRae rally style of racing game is niche. Not super niche, but, niche all the same. And it gives me hope for, like, maybe someone's going to come out with, like, a new Unreal Tournament or Quake style of arena shooter that really hits the right crowd. I know that we haven't had a lot of luck with that kind of thing in the past, but it would be really cool, and maybe it could use, like, retro gaming aesthetics and stuff instead of trying to be something new and swanky. It really feels like as gaming has kind of quote-unquote evolved and gotten older and decided to go in a certain direction, we've now had this subset of indie developers who are going, okay, fine, if you're not going to make the games we love anymore, we'll make them ourselves. I want to see a knockoff Formula 1 game done in this style of graphics, Or do like a Toka Touring Cars kind of game. Just, go for it, go wild. Maybe it does exist. If you know of it, let me know, please, in the comments. Oh, another one I forgot to mention, I love Horizon Chase Turbo, which is meant to be kind of an indie modern take on Outrun. Another type of game that I never played back in the day, but I do love the indie variant that came out. Not recently nowadays. I played it on PS4 back in like 2019, but it feels recent, damn it. It's pre-pandemic, so it's got that weird time thing of feeling both very recent and a million years ago. I went to check the reviews for the latest Codemasters, or I guess we should just say EA nowadays, rally game, and it's got mixed reviews, and a lot of the most recent ones are not recommended because they updated the game to include a kernel-level anti-cheat system, which now makes it so a lot of users can't run the game because of how intensive that is on the CPU. That's not the kind of thing you have to worry about with old school rally, is it? Though, to be fair, part of the reason is because this game doesn't have online multiplayer. I've seen that's a requested feature. But yeah, ultimately I don't know if this game is going to beat the old original Colin McRae rally games that you're emulating and still playing to this day, I'm sure. But it's worth a look, right? It's cheap, it's new, and it's fun. give it a go. If nothing else, support indie developers trying to bring you new experiences of the types of games that modern AAA devs will not. Now let's smoothly transition away from Old School Rally into talking about the games that I played this week, besides this one of course. And first and foremost, I would like to talk about World of Warcraft's 11.2.7 release, because it's been a big week for MMOs, fam. And World of Warcraft just released player housing, so we should probably talk about that. I did release a house tour video early in the week, which did pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. Thanks for anyone who checked that out. I've been very excited at the prospect of player housing in WoW, but I also knew it wouldn't be perfect, and I knew that I definitely am not the kind of person to sink thousands and thousands of hours into a player housing system, and so I was wondering when I would brush up against the limits of the system, and I am just now starting to, and I think it would be interesting to talk about that. Although, to be fair, I did go over this at the end of yesterday's video, yesterday's Adventures in Azeroth. I've decided to just call it Adventures in Azeroth, by the way. I used to do this thing where I would name it after the expansion title, and because this year's, or this most recent expansion was called The War Within, I was calling it Adventures Within Azeroth, but it felt weird calling it Adventures Within Azeroth, considering I didn't go underground at any point in the video, and I didn't really spend any time with War Within at any point in the video, and you know, the lines between expansions are a little bit more blurred nowadays in terms of the fact that we just got our Midnight Prologue and our first Midnight feature, but it's not even pre-patch, so I think I'm just going to start calling it Adventures in Azeroth and making it a blanket term. But anyway, yeah, the house system is incredible. Like, the intuitiveness of it cannot be overstated. There was a moment when I filled a bookcase up with books, and then I realized I wanted to move a bookcase, and without really thinking, I picked up the bookcase, and all of the books within the bookcase were just automatically assigned to it and knew to be picked up with it and become like a single furnishing item, and that's surprisingly intuitive considering this game came out in 2004. There have been so many times when I've been furnishing my house in WoW and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm playing World of Warcraft right now. Like, I have to take a second and go, this is a game I have sunk thousands of hours into, but I've never played it like this. I've never had these tools available to me, and it's insane that I do now. But sorry, yes, I was going to talk about the limitations of the system. So the Endeavor system isn't out yet, and that's what we're going to use to primarily level up our houses, because for those of you who don't know, there is kind of like a renowned tree kind of a system thing in which you do, I don't even know what kind of tasks they're going to be yet, but you do that, you gain Endeavor, and then you can level up your house so that you can have more rooms in it and stuff and more furnishings. But at the minute it's limited because it is technically an early access and you have to pre-order Midnight to be able to play it, and I'm struggling against the limitations of that. Like, the only way to level up your house right now is to go out into the world, find vendors with furnishings you don't have yet, or decor items that you don't have yet, and buy them and add them to a house chest, and you will get a single one-time bonus for each new piece of decor that you add for the first time to your house chest. But I don't know about you, I don't find it all that fun to go flying around, like spending ages trying to find where specific NPCs are and then finding out that actually I needed this amount of reputation or to have done this achievement or this weird obscure quest in order to be able to buy the furnishing piece, which I wouldn't even need to buy in the first place because it would just grant it to me for the first time doing the achievement, you know? Like, it actually gets a little boring and frustrating going and flying to all these vendors and discovering it this way. Maybe I need a better add-on. So my house is still level 3, and I have one great big opening room which I've divided into a few smaller rooms with wall dividers recently. Then I have a plus-shaped corridor, I have a corridor leading off of that to the left and to the right, and then I have a kitchen slash dining room slash mess hall kind of an area on the left. And if you're counting, that makes 2 main rooms, or 3 main rooms if you count the ones I've divided up. Or I guess 4. And then I can't place any more rooms, and the only way to do so is to go out and I don't even think I can, because I'm like out of currencies on the vendors I need stuff from, and haven't done certain reputations, and yeah, I think I'm kind of stuck now, and it's kind of a shame to be sat here and going, I have a living room and a kitchen and so many plans and no physical way of doing them. But you know, I had a lot of fun with what I made so far. I just wish it was a little bit less limiting at the minute, and that will become less of a problem as we go forwards, I know. But also, like, there are things such as you have to be really careful how you plan out your house, because there is no saving a room layout. There is no putting a room in storage and putting it somewhere else afterwards. If you don't like having a hallway going off to the left to have your dining room over there, and you want to move your dining room over to the right, or you want to get rid of a hallway, you know, kind of house in general and have it just more connected room to room, you're gonna have a bad time because you're gonna have to redo the entire room if you want to delete it and move it, which is weirdly restrictive compared to the exterior, where you can literally plonk your house down anywhere, and I believe the exterior will be saved. I know obviously your house exterior, how you've customized it will, but I believe like all the furnishing items you put down in your garden are saved as well. I don't actually know that for 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So it's a shame that they haven't found a way to do that with the interior rooms as well. Maybe they will in a future update. But yeah, not to go on about WoW for too long, I'm really enjoying the housing update. It is lovely, but I am hitting the limitations of it, and it is making my attention kind of go elsewhere. I did also do the prologue quest to Midnight, which was introduced in 11.2.7, and you can watch me play through that in that video I posted yesterday. I actually had a really good time with it. There were a few things. I have a love-hate relationship with WoW's storytelling nowadays, and I think it might be because my expectations were set really high by Chris Metzen in one BlizzCon, and so far, a few years later in one expansion in, those expectations have yet to be met in any real way, and I'm struggling against things like some of the character writing is inconsistent across different mediums or expansions, and some of the things which were used as hooks to get people interested still haven't really been explored in all that greater detail, like the visions and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Xal'atath is starting to feel a little bit drawn out as a villain. Like, I realized we've had one too many cutscenes of her like messing with her dark heart and going, ooh, I'm going to do evil things, ooh, there's bad things coming from me in your future, what are my plans? It's like, okay, it's not really a problem because I know we're about to get to the crux of that story in Midnight, but I feel like if it lasted any longer it would start to feel drawn out. Also, my biggest gripe with The War Within and forwards is just that Ilaria learned a lesson about not putting everything on herself and trusting in her friends in 11.0, and then immediately forgot the lesson and is continuing to have the same character arc with the same naivete and the same overly self-reliant driven nature in every single patch since, and it's like, did I dream it? Did I dream that story, Fred? Or are we just going back on that? But anyway, also another news, Blood Ties by Christy Golden finally came out in the UK, and I'm reading that. I'm having a great time with it so far. But yeah, outside of written extended media, I'm starting to realise that with in-game storytelling stuff, maybe I should be expecting less, and maybe it's wild that it took me this long to come to this conclusion, but I really wanted to believe, damn it. And I'm sure Midnight will be fun, but I'm sure I will have plenty of nitpicks with that story too. But yeah, it was really fun, and I'm not really spoiling anything here because it was in all the promotional material, so it was really fun going to the Moor and talking to Sylvanas again and seeing how that all played out. I've realised I may be a Sylvanas fan nowadays. Like, the way they treated her character was really bad, and the way they wrote her was really bad and really messy, but the ramifications of who she is now after all of that stuff is legitimately compelling, and I really hope they continue to take her character in the direction that she seems to be on now. I think it's really interesting. So there are still things I like about the story in WoW, and there always will be, but you know, I've become the person who's read Spider-Man for 40 years and hates every new issue as it comes out monthly but can't tear themselves away from it, I think. I've become that for World of Warcraft. But enough World of Warcraft talk. I also spent some time this week playing Dungeons of Hinterberg, which I got as part of the Yogscast Jingle Jam bundle of 2025. Dungeons of Hinterberg is basically if Zelda met Persona, but it was set in this little European village which has started seeing magic creep into it, and there are portals to dungeons opening up, and you play as this 20-something who is trying to get away from her job and actually have a sense of adventure in life. I've not Wow, what did I just say? I've not got that far through it yet, but I'm having a great time, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other games like this I play in the upcoming weeks from this bundle, because it's a really good bundle. If you want to donate some really good causes, you know what? I'll give them a little spawn. I'll give them a little ad read, okay? Because it's for charity, and they definitely need it from me. If you grab the £35 bundle, you will get Core Keeper, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Gatekeeper, Ixion, Mouthwashing, Old World, Rogue Waters, The Royal Writ, Rusty's Retirement, Spiritfall, Tactical Breach Wizards, Tower Unite, Train Sim World 6 DLC, Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, and Wild Bastards. Also some like Minecraft Marketplace DLC, but I couldn't get that to show up on my account when I redeemed it, but I'm sure it's fair now. It probably just takes time. But yeah, there's definitely a few games in there I'm very excited about. Like Core Keeper I played a bit of on Game Pass, I'm very excited for. Old World, I still have like an unplumbed depth of interest in like Civ games, and Old World is basically a Civ game, except they've put some of the Crusader Kings kind of like dynastic family storytelling gameplay into it. Very interested in that. Tactical Breach Wizards is made by the same person who made Heat Signature, which is one of my favorite indie games of all time. Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate is basically XCOM, but Warhammer 40k. Hell yeah, let's go. I already own Tower Unite, but I haven't played it in like a decade, but apparently it left early access to pretty positive receptions. And it goes to supporting charities such as Calm, Warchild, Autistica, Become, The Grand Appeal, Make-A-Wish, The Trevor Project, and WWF. Oh, I forgot to talk about Guild Wars Reforged as well. I said it was a big week for MMOs. The Guild Wars Reforged update came out, and I haven't played all that much of it yet, but I did spin up a new character. I'm going Warrior Elementalist, which isn't necessarily a build which is all that well recommended, except there is a build called like Conjured Blade or something, and apparently that does pretty good DPS. You just have to be aware that you're not going to be using your Elementalist stuff all that often. It is mostly a warrior main kind of a class. But yeah, I've never got all that far in Guild Wars 1, so I thought I'd spin up another new character, have another go with the new Reforged update, and it's nothing crazy. It's still Guild Wars 1, but it's definitely a much more lightweight kind of a client. Like, it loads instantly, and the new quest tracking system is quite nice, and it looks a little bit spiffier, and you know what the most important thing is? There are a ton of people playing it now, and I hope that will continue into the future, because whenever I played it previously, it was pretty dead. And it really is nice to see so many players playing the game, even though you're mostly playing a game in like single player instances if you're not partying up with people. It's really nice to get to a town and just seeing a ton of people hanging around talking and stuff. Now, for something a little bit different, this is the time of year when you start getting all your wrapped things, right? And don't worry, I'm not going to start going through all of mine. But you get your Spotify Wrapped, your YouTube recap, all that stuff. This year my bank wanted me to do one, which was insane. They were sharing like personal information about like how many transactions I'd made this year, and were like, share with friends, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? what why would that be interesting to anyone other than someone who wants to steal my identity? But no, I want to talk about how in my YouTube recap it kind of gave me free categories of moods or whatever. I forget how it went. You know how weird these things can be. But it said that I basically have like a gaming mood, a like booktube mood, and a curiosity mood. And the curiosity mood is when sometimes I go and watch educational videos about, you know, the universe or history and stuff like that. And it reminded me that I want to talk about a new channel I discovered this week. Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. They do these amazing little animated infographic style videos about theories, about the universe and all this kind of stuff. And it's not AI. I know that's unfortunately our first instinct whenever you hear like, because it's very high effort, right? You see like these 10-minute long animations they do for free and you're like, did they automate some of this? But it looks too good to be automated, and no, it's not AI. But they have these 2-hour-long videos. One of them just came out, and one of them's like 2 years old. And one of them is the entire history of the planet, and one of them is the entire history of humankind. And in both of them, it's like a scale. In the planet one, it's like 1.5 million years per second, and then in the human one, I forget what the time scale is, but in both ones it's crazy how often, because I sat and I watched them all the way through to give myself like the correct scale and impression of how long these events took. And in both of them it's crazy how long it takes for things that we recognize as history to happen. Like in the first video it's so long before dinosaurs show up, and in the second video it's so long before civilization as we know it shows up. And by civilization as we know it, I mean civilization full stop. But yeah, it reminds me of when I first discovered the Melody Sheep channel, and I was just like, ooh, so many things to watch, so many things to binge. As far as yearly recap stuff goes though, I'm still waiting on the Steam replay, because that I will make a video out of. That will be very interesting to go through. Although, since I've been writing this year's, you know, best games that I played this year list, I'm not exactly going to be surprised by some of the stuff that shows up, because I have been looking back through my play history just to make sure that I don't overlook anything or miss anything. But it'll still be fun to go through because it'll have data on there beyond just like what months that I played certain games. Regarding that upcoming post and potentially video as well, I did mention last week I was considering changing up the formula because it's difficult to rank top 10 games when I just never finish any bloody games. And for a while I was bummed out about that because I like having a thing that I do at a particular interval of time that broadly follows the same structure, if you can already tell from the weekly waypoint. But I've actually landed on a really fun kind of a formula which I'm excited to show you. And I mean, it's no great secret. If you've ever watched the Nerd Cubed Awards, how he does it with giving out like these kind of semi-arbitrary awards, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing as well. But I will be including nominations. I guess I'm just going to tell you, huh? I will be including nominations so that you can kind of have an understanding of how much competition there was for each particular award. Some of them there's like 5 or 6 games, some of them there is not. And again, it's not going to be limited to games that came out this year because that's not how my attention works. And, you know, it's not exactly important to be giving awards or ranking games or anything. It's just a fun way of giving a general overview of my favourite games that I played this year. And I look forward to writing it and sharing it. But if you really like the top 10 format, don't worry, there's something which might also be coming out pretty soon too. I should mention that over on my other channel at Kritigri Talks, I did a tier list video where I ranked each and every single comic that I read this year, or like, you know, comic title, comic volume or whatever. And that was a whole lot of fun to do, although it was pretty time consuming because there were a lot of entries to go over. Because this was very much the year that, like, I never really fell out of comics, but this was a year that I really got back into comics, at least for the last 4 or 5 months or so, right? I've really dived in with both feet, and I've started collecting physical comics for the first time in many years, and you know what just came in the post today? If you can hear that, that's the first compendium I've ever bought. It looks so thick, I can sit it on its desk by its spine alone. That's almost 1,400 pages of pure Superman, baby. Well, I guess not really pure Superman, because he dies in that one. He's not in it for a while. Oh, I should also mention that for the first time in many years, I have Amazon Prime Video, and I'm watching through The Flash. I'm talking about that over on the other channel, but I'm also watching through Arrow, which I'm going to be making less videos about, but I might make videos about as I finish each season. But yeah, I've been wanting to watch the Arrowverse for a long time, and it seems like they're finally popping up on a streaming service that I can go and subscribe to, so that's exciting. Unfortunately, it does mean I'm giving Amazon money, and we all know how I feel about that. But yeah, they have like Supergirl and stuff like that, so we'll see how long my interest in that lasts, but you know, I'm excited to get watching through all that stuff. Been wanting to see some of those shows for absolute years, so it's fun to be able to do so. Now, before we close out today's episode, I do just want to make mention of the fact that last week a man named Nick Thorpe passed away, and I did not know him personally. I knew of him through a mutual friend and occasionally we'd exchange messages in their replies and stuff, and he always seemed really lovely. You might have known him as a writer of Retro Gamer magazine, and I just wanted to pass it along in case you knew him and weren't aware of this news. But yeah, all I can really say is he seemed like a really nice guy, and I wish I'd, you know, taken a chance to get to know him while I could. Take care, everyone.